Well, thanks for tuning in to Conversations in the Wild, a podcast by Maverick River. Why is it Conversations in the Wild? So many reasons, one of which is most often guys are more prone to get authentic, to get real, and to share the things that are really going on in their life when they're out in the wild, when they're out by a bonfire, when they're out camping, when they're out hiking, when they're out surfing, when they're out snowboarding or doing something like golfing. They tend to eventually open up and get real. The other reason why it's Conversations in the Wild is because Jesus did the majority of his ministry out in the wild. When he met the disciples and recruited his dream team, it was by a lake shore, on a mountain. And there's so many incredible encounters with God out in the wild. So here we are, Conversations in the Wild. I'm very excited about this episode because one of the most impactful people in my life, Mr. Eric Hurd, is our guest today. And Eric is a pastor with me at Mariners Church. He is a friend and a mentor and a leader, and he has changed so many men and women's lives. He is an incredible pastor who shepherds the people of Mariners Church and the community outside the church in Orange County so well. And he is just a guy's guy, a leader of leaders, full of wisdom, and I'm just thrilled that he took some time to connect with us today on Conversations in the Wild. So I hope you enjoy this next podcast with Pastor Eric Hurd, who, by the way, has been on staff at Mariners over 25 years. He's been in pastoral ministry, I believe, 40 some years. He does marriage counseling. He's done over 1,000 weddings and probably 800 memorials. This is a man who cares deeply for others and has pastored very, very well for many, many years. And I'm honored to have him on today. Enjoy. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Maverick River podcast, Conversations in the Wild. I'm very excited because my good friend, mentor, and a fellow pastor at Mariners Church is on with me today. The legendary Eric Hurd, who's had a mustache for 40 years?
Well, actually, yes.
40 years. 40 some years. He's had the world's greatest mustache that we are all trying to grow as beautiful as he has. Eric, thanks for tuning in.
Oh, man, Tim, there's no place I would rather be than right here on this podcast with my good friend and a guy I deeply respect.
Well, thanks, Eric.
And by the way, I lied. It's not 40, 50 years.
50 years with the same mustache.
When I came to Jesus, God healed my lip and gave me hair.
Well, what was wrong with your lip before Jesus?
Wouldn't grow hair.
Seriously?
No, I couldn't grow a mustache.
Well, that is a beautiful miracle that we should probably start the conversation off. So, first of all, many guys are wondering, your wife she's okay with that. She is, because a lot of women don't like facial hair, specifically mustaches.
Okay. So Tim, here's the story. Early on in our marriage, my wife was going, I've never seen you without a mustache. And you know how women could just be like a dripping faucet? Well, she just kept saying that. So finally I said, screw it. And I went ahead and shaved my lip. She gets home, she looks at me, she goes, you look horrible. So, even when we do the right thing, it's the wrong thing.
All right.
Yeah. Well, so I've only been once without the hair on the lip.
Wow. Well, interesting history of the mustache, 50 years strong.
Yes.
And it has made you so hip and cool and wise for all these years. But part of the reason I wanted to have you on is because you have been a pastor for probably 30 plus years. I know
48 years.
48 years.
Yes.
Some 25 at Mariners.
Yes.
And then before that at EV
22 at EV Free and then 3 in Laguna.
Okay, fantastic. So we can learn a lot from Eric Hurd. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on, you could talk about many, many things in the area of helping people. But the main focus today that I wanted to hone in on is marriage.
Yeah.
Because one of the goals of the Conversations in the Wild is for us guys to have honest, meaningful, authentic conversations that maybe we have these conversations more as guys when we're doing something,
Yeah.
when we're out in the wild or on a hike or camping around a campfire. We tend to eventually have a meaningful conversation, but we don't do it enough in the day-to-day. And the reality is marriage is a major problem. Well, I should say divorce is a major problem. Marital issues is a major problem. I believe we're over 50% divorce rate in our country. And then, am I not mistaken that Orange County is over 70% divorce rate?
State of California is right around 60, 61%. But yeah, the statistics are horrible.
So why do you think that marriage is pretty much on a national level over 50%?
Yeah. There's a multitude of answers, but one that immediately comes up all the time for me is the fact that most couples are raised in a situation in which they've never seen a healthy marriage. That was certainly my case. Like, I cannot judge anybody that's been divorced or has a troubled marriage, because my wife was pretty much done with me a year and a half into our marriage. I didn't know what I was doing. So a lot of couples get married thinking, how hard can this be? They get in it. But here's a second thing is, whatever's broken in them, whatever dysfunction they grew up in, skewed thinking about marriage, it's going to show up, and it catches couples off guard. And there's a theory I have about cohabitation, which has escalated in this last decade or two, is that couples don't want to marry because they're afraid of getting divorced. So they'll live together, which immediately impedes or puts into the marriage distrust.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just see a lot of things like never seen a healthy marriage, brokenness that shows up. They don't know what to do with it. And the fear overwhelms them. And all of a sudden they think, why have I gotten in this marriage? And they make a quick exit.
I think I've read that there is a pretty unfortunate statistic for cohabitation as far as if you were cohabitating and do decide to get married, there's a pretty low statistic of
about
that.
25% success rate.
Wow. So just the cohabitation philosophy is not boding well for a lasting marriage.
Well, and I'll use a little equation. So you cohabit thinking, I'm going to see if this relationship works. Well, you have little bumps in the road and stuff, but it's kind of working. But then you get into a covenant relationship, you move to marriage, and all of a sudden it doesn't work, and more difficult things come. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming. I knew I shouldn't have married this person. So it just kind of greases the slide out of marriage. And so I see a lot of cohabiting couples that within 3, 5, 7 years, they're out.
So you do a lot of premarital counseling. You do a lot of counseling, and you've done over, I believe, 1,000 weddings.
Yes, 1,238 weddings.
The fact that you know that number.
Yeah.
And you're 66 years old, or are you 67?
I am 67. I'm much older than you thought.
You're much older, but I really am. That's impressive. And, you'll probably hear me say multiple times of how much I respect and honor all the work that you do. You're very gifted, but the fact that you know that number is really telling of who you are as a pastor and the care that you have. But when you're doing premarital, we're going to start premarital, and then we're going to move into marriage, and then we're going to move into conflict resolution in this conversation. What's some of the wisdom that I know you use the saving your marriage before it starts? Symbis, it's called, that we do premarital here. But what's some of the great sage advice you would say to couples as they're preparing for marriage, considering marriage, maybe engaged?
What a great question. And I'll tell you, with most every couple I've ever done premarital with, I start off with every couple has a fear that it could ever end. Divorce is one of the most stressful things anybody goes through. So there's this latent fear. And what I want to do is I want to equip this couple to have confidence in what they're about to do, not fear, because you don't fear what you know. And so I said, let me share a few things that I learned. One is, Jesus didn't say a lot about marriage, but what he said was brilliant. Like in Matthew, he said Moses used to give a certificate of divorce, and most every culture has a certificate of marriage and a certificate of divorce. And he said Moses used to give a certificate of divorce, and God would permit it. And then he says, why? Because of the hardness of men's hearts. the first thing I tell couples is that you're going to run across things you can't figure out. You're going to come up against a wall. You go, we'll never get over that. And all of a sudden this fear gets in them. Rather than seeking out wisdom and help, they oftentimes just try to figure it out themselves. But I tell them, if you'll be humble, like when I'm doing marital counseling with a couple that's about ready to quit, I'll go, if you will humble yourselves, both of you, and do what God tells you to do, I've never seen a marriage not work, ever. And so I always tell couples, if you'll humble yourselves, any marriage can work. But see, people get really arrogant. They get self-centered, self-seeking, and the marriage blows apart because they're not humbling themselves. Second thing is I tell them, don't ever be surprised by your brokenness. It will show up. It's the most intimate of all relationships. It's integration at every primary level: sexual, spiritual, financial, familial. And as you integrate, whatever's broken in you by God's design will show up. What you do with it will determine your legacy. So that the third thing I tell them is, don't do what every couple does. And you've heard me say this, Tim. When I will sit in my office, and by the way, you probably hear every counseling session I ever have because I'm a loud talker.
You're not quiet.
No, I'm not. And I'm that's a confession. So anyway, when I meet with a couple, I'll ask them a question, and I just want to prove a point. I'll say, tell me about your marriage. Usually the wife just kind of lambasts the husband. She's been waiting to tell somebody how bad he is. And I'm looking at the husband, and he's just sitting there going, why am I here? But he's also loading up to lambaste her, what she does after I say, well, tell me what you think. And so he'll tell me all her, and I'll look at them and I'll go, you are just like every other couple that did exactly what Jesus said not to do. He said, do not judge lest you be judged, for in the you judge, you'll be judged by the same measure. He says, focus, take the log out of your eye before you take the speck out of your brother's eye. And I said, you guys are too busy judging the other person to actually work on the one thing you can control, which is you. And so I said, so don't get into judging. And then the fourth thing I tell them is, every couple needs, and I was so glad you mentioned this, a conflict resolution skill that works. Because if you resolve conflicts, you don't divorce somebody you're at peace with.
Right. See,
I have no lack of confidence in my marriage because Deb and I know how to resolve conflict. We've been doing it for decades.
Right.
Yeah. So we're at peace. And so those four things is what I tell every premarital couple.
So recapping, we have humility, judgment was, I believe, hardening of heart or pride.
Yeah. So again,
humble yourself.
Yeah. The humility, the not judging, conflict resolution. But the first thing was, oh my gosh.
I think it was it pride or hardening?
No, it's
good thing we have this recorded.
Yeah, because I'll want to listen to it so I can get the wisdom.
You've been coaching on this for years. I'm really glad you got all four down.
I think I'm losing it.
But you heard it. Yeah. So whatever Eric said that he can't remember, stick with those four things. But so, okay, that's the premarital stuff.
Yeah.
But you do a lot of counseling.
Yeah.
I think you do. I mean, conflict resolution is one of your sweet spots.
Yeah.
But a lot of what you do is marriages in crisis as well.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to share about this conflict resolution. I know you have kind of a strategy and a philosophy around it.
I do, but I want to share with you, when I meet with a couple, one of the things that I know is that they're coming to see me not because their marriage is working, but they are in a bad place. And one of the things that a lot of therapists do not do, and I've been doing for years, is reconciliation. When a marriage is bad, there's been a lot of damage. And unless you deal with that damage, all the seminars in the world, all the conferences in the world, all the therapy in the world, it'll get sabotaged. Because when you've been hurt so many times by your mate, you've grown resentful or bitter. You'll remember in the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus said, you've heard it was said, you shall not commit murder.
Yes.
Well, how does somebody get to the point where they want to commit murder? They are so enraged. Like what's the one call law enforcement does not want to get? It's domestic violence. Because now they're dealing with two enraged people and not sure what they're going to see. And so you see abuse, you see murder. And so he says, you heard you shall not commit murder. But I say to you, if you even call your brother Raka or fool, you've committed the very act. In marriage, think about it. It starts off with name calling, character assassination, and it keeps building, and resentment keeps building. That's why Paul says in Ephesians 4, don't let the sun go down on your anger, and don't give the devil an opportunity. In other words, you're in a dangerous place when you have resentment. So when I meet with a couple, what I know is they haven't reconciled. And so in that passage that Jesus talks about not committing murder, in verse 23 and 24, it says, if you go to the altar of God, in other words, you're going to go into his presence, and there you remember that your brother has something against you. Go, he says, lay down your offering, which, by the way, can be your tithe, your worship, your service. I don't want it. You go and reconcile with your brother, then come and present your offering. The highest calling in the Christian life is to maintain peace in relationship. That's why in Romans 12:18, if at all possible, so far as it depends on you, be at peace. So the first thing I'll do with a couple is I'll have them write letters of confession to each other. And I give them a whole template of what I need from them. I want it to be a page, general in scope, no excusing, blaming, or minimizing. They can write it in bullet point or narrative, but they've got to confess what they've done, not what their partner's done, but what they've done to screw up the marriage. And then what I do is I have them write it. They send it to me.
Before they even come to you, they're doing this confessional letter.
Yes, because it levels the playing field. We can't deal with anything, because if I start trying to coach in some skills, empathetic communication, if I try to start helping them, but they've got resentment and bitterness, you're screwed.
Can't get anywhere. Yeah,
you can't, because they'll sabotage what you give them at home, because they're so resentful and bitter. That's why modern Christian therapy, marriage therapy, is wholly ineffective, because the couple is too wound up and they're too angry. And so first thing I'll ever do is reconciliation. Then we start to build the marriage they didn't have, the skills that they didn't have. Yeah.
So what does that look like as far as conflict resolution? I know that is one of your lanes that you've shared with me. We've worked together forever. We share an office wall, so I hear a lot of the counseling happening. But I know that conflict resolution is, a lot of times there's major conflict.
Yes.
So if we can get through that conflict, we can begin to rebuild marriages.
Okay. And so what I do is I say, I want you guys to pick a conflict you have. Doesn't matter to me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through it. Then I'm going to walk you through it, and you're going to do it, and I'm going to coach you. And then you're going to do it in front of me, and I'm not going to say a thing. So I want to make sure they've got the skill, because it really is a skill. And I can walk you through it and then go back to the most important element of it. Like the first one is, as you know, Tim, in any relationship, we can get emotionally charged depending on what the offense is. Like there's certain offenses to you that it evokes a lot of pain. And like for me, if I'm in a relationship and I'm dismissed, like I was dismissed my whole life, and it still triggers me. But in conflict resolution, you start with a safe environment. Like that was the one thing I didn't have in my relationship. I was a yeller. I was an anger monger. And Debbie, we would try to resolve stuff, and I would just lose it. Well, she just completely withdrew, because she never once heard her dad yell. And here she's married to a rager. A year and a half into our marriage, she said, I can't do this. So what we did is we said, let's start with a safe environment. No yelling, no character assassination. We're going to listen to each other. That's going to be our focus. So we create the safe environment. Secondly, is that when it comes to conflict, I used to, if Debbie said, we need to talk, I'd go, oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah.
Now she's got to tell me how screwed up I am.
I'm never excited when my wife says we need to talk.
Well,
it's never been, you have been doing an amazing job as a husband. It's just not, that's not what I hear.
But here's the thing is that if it's conflict resolution, it's as important for her to listen to you as it is for you to listen to her. So if
Sure.
Debbie said, if I say to Debbie, hey, we need to talk, she goes, okay, and we'll set a time. That's the second thing. There is no stonewalling in marriage. One of the, like I call it, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's the 4 things in marriage that you never want to see. One of them is stonewalling, where one person won't talk. That's a marriage it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't do stonewalling. We set an appointment. Like if I was to say, Tim, let's have lunch next week, and I don't get out my iPhone, what's the chances?
Pretty minimal.
Yeah. But if Debbie says we need to talk, and I go, hey, why don't we do it tonight? I'm free, you're free. Or, hey, could we, I'll go to work later. Let's do it in the morning. Once I set the appointment, it tells her that I view the conflict as important. If it's important to you, it's important to me.
Yeah.
Third thing we do is we pray as we go into the conflict, because it's a spiritual battle. And we want the enemy far from it, because this is where a lot of people get twisted. The enemy plays into it. They're not going to get their way. They're not being listened to. You're being unreasonable. You're being too demanding. You're trying to get your own way. And it's just, it's lights out. And so we pray that God would keep us focused. God would give us listening ears, and God would give us wisdom in resolving the conflict. And by the way, that's a key element, wisdom. Remember in James 5, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all men generously without reproach. That's what we're needing. So then what we do is, as you know, is the mirroring. So like, let's say it's the conflict. For me, it was Debbie tended to be late to most everything. And there's certain things I have to be at on time. And I would just be dying because she's still getting ready. And I'm standing behind her going, babe, come on. And then I'd get in the car. I'm so angry. I'm not even talking to her.
Right.
So
that's never happened to me.
Yeah, I totally get that. And so here's the thing. I shared first because it was more passionate to me. And what I did is I wrote out 4 statements that I needed her to hear, and she's going to mirror it back to me. That way I know she's listened. And I remember what I wrote to her. I said, it disappoints me that every time I try to nudge you to get ready, you say, leave me alone, and you're still late. Okay. Secondly, I'm always the one, I'm angry because I'm always the one that has to apologize when we're late. Now, while I'm saying this, she's writing it down because she's going to mirror back to me what I said. I remember saying, I'm disillusioned because no matter what method I've used, you simply are not you're not on time. Fourthly, you name, I'm disappointed because you name call when I try to get you going. And so now those are tough things for her to hear, but she's not saying anything to me. She's too busy writing it down. Then she mirrors back what I said, and she'll go, did I hear you? Well, if she's written it down, she's heard me. Sure. I go, exactly. Now, all that's done is let her know how deeply this has affected me, and especially at a feeling level. Now, we're not done because she also has her side. And so I'll have her share with me her statements. I remember some of her statements were, I'm frustrated because you want to be early to everything. And that kind of caught me. That is kind of, I grew up in a military home.
Right.
And she was right. And that's not fair to her. Secondly, she said, I'm upset because when we get in the car and I'm running late, you won't even talk to me. Thirdly, you nag me almost all day of an event about getting ready. And that just frustrates me to no end. And so she's sharing her feelings and statements. Now, this doesn't take very long. By the time we've done the mirroring, and by the way, I mirror back to her, and I want to share with you, and no surprise to you, the number one complaint I get from women, and I've met with thousands of women about their husbands. My husband doesn't fill in the blank. What do you think it is?
Listen to me.
Tim, you went to the school. Every woman's, Tim, in 40 years working with couples, never had a woman not say, he doesn't listen to me. Okay, so guess what? In this system, in this conflict resolution, she knows I've listened.
Yeah, you wrote it down and you mirrored it back.
That's it. Now, once we've both shared, here's the cool part is we haven't solved anything. But what we've done is we've tilled the soil. We've heard each other. Like I remember when Debbie wanted to adopt because we were infertile. And I had told her before we got married, I would never adopt because I was adopted and abused.
Mm.
It was an emotional thing for me. I will never forget her sharing her feelings, and the Holy Spirit just broke me. And when we went to brainstorm, because that's the next phase, is now that we've heard each other out, when we know how deeply each other feels, let's get this thing resolved. Now I'm thinking, what would resolve it for Debbie? Debbie's thinking, what would resolve this for Eric? See how different that is.
Mm-hmm.
Not getting my way, but helping it to be resolved for Eric. Well, I immediately thought, this is not about me not adopting. It's what agency we're going to use.
Mm-hmm.
I felt incredibly small because of what Debbie said. And so you brainstorm and you come up with whatever ideas. And in brainstorming, money is an issue, time is an issue, it's never been done, whatever.
Right.
Well, on the issue of the time thing, remember the wisdom you asked from God? Here's what God gave me as to how we could resolve. I realized we don't have to be on time to everything. So I said, babe, what if we had A, B, and C level activities? An A is I got to be at a wedding, I got to be on time. She goes, if I'm not on time, why don't you leave and I'll meet you there? And I went, you'll do that? She goes, yeah, I don't want you to be late to a wedding. I said, well, on a B level activity, if we're going out to dinner with somebody, if we're 15 minutes late, I don't mind. I'll apologize and we'll be good. But if it's more than that, honey, I think I should go ahead. I'll get your order and you'll meet us there. And I'll be with them so they're not frustrated that we're not there. And then a C level, we're going on vacation. I don't care. And you know what, Tim? We don't argue about her being late anymore.
That's great.
Yeah, I've never heard of another couple that does it that way, but it's worked for us.
So I'm curious about it. It sounds fantastic in theory, but there's a couple things that I put myself in the position. So I'm thinking, the first thing I believe you said stonewalling, and then it was praying, and I can't imagine in the middle. Let's just say we're in the middle of a hot, frustrating, argument. I can't imagine stopping and, hey, we should pray.
Yep.
And then we should mirror. It just feels like now you almost have to get to a position where you're in agreement that this is how we are going to decide as a couple, that we problem solve or conflict resolution. But like imagine, Eric in his first year of marriage where you're so frustrated, you're going to be 40 minutes late to what you believe is a level A commitment, and you're name calling or so frustrated, nagging, all the things. You don't have the ability probably in those moments to go, hey, let's pray.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Thank you for bringing that up. Remember, we go back to the number one thing in conflict resolution. First thing, safe environment. Mm-hmm. If we're yelling and we're agitated, you cannot resolve the conflict. Right. So to your point, you resolve the conflict when there isn't an issue at hand.
Right.
And so
you have to be out of the conflict.
That's
not in the middle of it.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And because you're exactly right. You're not going to pray with the person. You're not going to mirror. Because again, the tricky thing about marriage is, to the degree that you love somebody, like if somebody tragically, your spouse dies, you've been in a 40-year marriage and your spouse dies, and you were intimate and close, you're going to grieve a lot longer than somebody that was married 3 years and hardly knew each other. But here's the thing, to the degree that you love your spouse is the degree that you can hate your spouse. So you do not want, like when I came back, Deb and I separated for 8 months. When I came back with Debbie, I said, I will not use anger again as a tool. And if I even begin to do that, just say you're doing it again, and I will stop, and it won't be disrespectful, and I will honor you. And so to your point, I would never enter into a conflict resolution angry. In fact, if you start to get angry, stop. Because like the anger of man never achieves God's purposes. Right. You'll never get where you want to go.
Right. So that's kind of the process that you coach couples to then instill at home, but you also take them through that process as you're counseling.
Yeah, because they've got, we learn by doing. And so if I just give them the skill in writing, they're not going to do it.
Right.
And now I will tell you, remember going back to, this thing of humility when Jesus said, the stubbornness, the hardness of men's hearts, is that I have seen people, I have coached couples, and one of them just will not humble themselves, will not tone it down. And it's just like, come on, dude, do you want to be married long term? Mm-hmm. Because nobody wants to be with a jerk.
Right.
And some people just have to, they're command and control. They are abusive. And I was that guy, so I don't judge anybody. But I about blew open my marriage. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't judge anybody that's been divorced. My wife could have easily left me. Yeah.
That's great. Any other practical tools on marriage that you think is worth sharing?
Okay, so good. Most every couple, I would say it's between 90 and 100%. When I'm meeting with them, they have no perspective. They're not close to any other healthy marriages. Like in my life group, we've been together 25 years and we've raised our kids together. We're all empty nest. We have grandkids, but almost every one of those couples were at a breaking point. And here's what we did as a life group. We hung in with both of them. We didn't judge either one of them. Neither of them could talk about the spouse. They could talk about themselves. But they stayed in the group. Even like one couple was separated for 5 years, but they pled to stay in our group because all of us had been through it. And we didn't judge them. We just loved on them, prayed for them. They were in the Bible study together, even though they were living separately. And so one key thing is most couples don't have one healthy couple around them. So they think they're the only crazy couple. They're the only one arguing about this. This is why it's so good, like for me to have men in my life, not to demean my wife, but to go, have you ever dealt with this? Or what do you do? Like, when there's certain things like understanding a woman's hormones and, like you go through the menopause years and, you go through different things, with your spouse, and to hear from other men is just so beautiful. Not a man that goes, yeah, I'm always a jerk. No. What did you do when? So right. I just want to share with you that one last thing is most couples I'm dealing with don't have any perspective. They think they're the only crazy couple.
Yeah. I mean, that just overemphasizes the value of being in community.
Yes.
Having honest conversations, being with other mentor couples, or even not mentor couples, but couples that are going through similar things in the same life stage where there's somewhat of validation of me too. I'm not alone. Other couples are experiencing these hardships. So,
well, let me give you one illustration. Guy comes to me, his wife caught him with porn, and she's ready to divorce him. And I said, "Can I talk to her?" And she won't talk to you. Just give her my number. Just say, "Would you?" And she called me, and I said, "Hey, I have a friend of mine. His wife caught him with porn, and they have a strong marriage." And they work through it. Would you be willing to meet with them, you and your husband? And they did. And she got a perspective from this other wife. They set up some great guidelines, but there was a lot that they brought out to this young couple that she was ready to divorce. But once she listened to an older woman who went through it with her husband, she goes, oh my gosh. And to me, it saved the marriage just by that perspective.
Yeah. So healthy.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, because that I've started a nonprofit specifically. Yeah. We do a lot of things, but it's really targeted at men.
Yes.
We want to help restore marriages. We want to help men be great fathers and to be the men that God's created them to be. We want to ignite men to follow Jesus. And so you were the men's pastor here at Mariners Church before me. But just for a minute here, I would love for you to express why a men's ministry is so valuable to a church.
Well, and what I want to do is affirm what I saw in you, because your men's ministry is going to be reflected by the leader. And the one thing I couldn't do is there's a principle in ministry is that older will do younger, but younger does not necessarily want to do older. So the great thing you were able to do when you came in as a young man, now you're really old, but mature.
Yes.
But the one thing you were able to do is captivate the younger men. That's when this ministry ignited.
Mm.
Why do we need a men's ministry? But I want to qualify it by multi-generational, multi-ethnic.
Mhm.
It is because we need different perspectives. Men need each other. Like I will tell you, as important as my life group is with these couples, the most important life group I'm in is a men's group, because that's where I don't hide. A man can hide in a couples group. By that, I mean, he won't truly reveal himself. And so what you have done in this men's ministry, and I'm so proud of you to take this thing national and maybe even international, is to awaken a clarion call. We need to redefine what it means to be a man of God. We need to strip away society's just unrelenting negativity toward masculinity. Even the term toxic masculinity, I kind of get it, is that there are men that are toxic, that are hurtful, that aren't safe. But man, most of the men I'm hanging around are godly men who are desperately trying to live life and do it well, build a legacy. And so a men's ministry is this opportunity to impact how men think about themselves, forming a healthy identity. And then being in a group of other men who will challenge their thinking, bring wisdom. There's a natural mentoring that goes on. Like we just got through man camp because men don't retreat. But we just got through man camp, and I watched as I saw younger men connecting with older men. Mm-hmm. That was God's design. That's where wisdom comes. Mm-hmm. So, man, I'm excited about this new ministry that you're starting. And because we need healthy men, because as men go, so go marriages, so goes the family, so goes the church, so goes the community. You name any area. When men lead well, women flourish. Women are protected. See, right now you look at the maladies in society, I will tell you, men aren't doing our job. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. I love it, Eric. I appreciate all the support all many years. We've been on staff together for me 15 years, but Eric long precedes me. But your wisdom on marriage and the work that you do to restore and bring back multiple marriages that I know in crisis, literally, papers drafted, that I know that you have been a part of restoring, and we've got to partner in a lot of those great things. So thanks for being on here today, and all that you do for the church and for men and for couples. So thanks again. Any last thing you want to throw out to the listeners?
River, baby. It's all about partnership. I'm staying with you in this one. It's exciting. I just think it's going to be the timing's right. It's like when Promise Keepers came out. The timing was right. Mm-hmm. Right now in culture, the timing of this ministry couldn't be better.
Wow.
I'm all in.
We're excited to launch Maverick River. Of course, we'll link that in this. But if you're a pastor or work for a church or a leader in a church and you want a men's ministry, I do want to partner and help you launch, because we do believe at Maverick River that men's ministry is a critical component to every ministry at a church. If you want an awesome high school ministry and children's ministry and women's ministry, you have to have men ignited and fired up and leading well. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Eric, for being here, and we'll catch you next time.